Welcome to another episode of Marketing Monday. Today I'm talking to Deborah Potter at SageAge, and we're going to be talking about sales and marketing and conversion, all sorts of wonderful things. And we did this really, I'm going to confess the reality. We'll do a little reality here. We got to talking about the passing of our parents just before we started online. So if we seem a little weird, it's because of that. We were just reminiscing. And with that, before we get started, let's take a look at our intro. Deborah, welcome. Let's start with who you are and who SageAge is and kind of what you're passionate about.
All right, wonderful. Thanks so much, Steve. I am Deborah Potter. I'm a consultant at SageAge. And SageAge is a full-service marketing firm in the senior living space. We do all kinds of senior living services, and we do everything from digital marketing to traditional marketing, creative services, marketing research, and my specialty, which is consulting on the sales side mostly.
Terrific. I actually love talking about the sales process. There is sort of this sense that, I don't know, it's like sales is it's a job that's never done first, right?
Right.
Because even if you're full, you know you're not going to stay full. And it always feels like there are never enough leads, never good enough leads. And so I'd actually like to just sort of let's talk about and I think so. I actually want to ask this question to start with. Is it a problem of not enough leads or not enough good leads, or is the problem more about converting the leads we have?
I think it depends.
Okay.
And I'd hate to give such a terrible answer there. I'd love to give you a black and white, this is what it always is. But, in my world as a consultant, I often land in communities and look at the whole picture, right? And definitely even on the client services side of SageAge, we do a deep dive into the analytics to look at what's actually going on. I work with communities who are drowning in leads almost, and are struggling to sometimes convert, struggling to know how to prioritize, struggling to know how to parse out what they should be doing and when. I work with communities that are struggling and working every single lead they have, way past probably what they should be, and have this terror of letting go of any lead, even if it's no good. So I work with the real spectrum. I think the thing is, you have to have partners. I know I'm biased in saying this, but you have to have partners who are willing and able to look at, or you have the skill level inside your organization. They're willing to look at the analytics and go, where is the fall off here? How many leads do we have? How are they converting? What are we doing to qualify them? How are we working them? And the whole big picture, especially now that we're in the integrated, really much more complicated marketing world, there's just no one short answer. So that's sort of you have to have someone who diagnoses and takes it from there.
Okay. So, I mean, in general, when you go into a community that's struggling with their occupancy sales process, do you find it's more often they have, I mean, maybe I'm going to do this a little differently. So do you find typically there's opportunity to convert better? I mean, I guess to me, I guess what I think, and you're going to, you sort of push back on me a little bit on this, but I actually think most senior living communities have enough leads, but they're not managing them very well and they're not converting them very well.
Yeah, I love the way you asked that question this time. And sorry, I didn't zero in on that last time, but do I think there's almost always opportunity to convert better? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for as long as I've been in senior living, which is about 30 years now, I've never not been having this conversation. And I'm ready for us to turn the page. I really am, because I think that there is sort of a philosophical thing that this is stemming from, and that is I was having a conversation with a friend the other day who's in sales and marketing in another industry, who says, oh my gosh, in this other industry, all we talked about was a certain way of training, accountability, embracing sales, constant practice, constant diligence on, conversions. And you get to senior living and they're sort of like, well, we don't really want to admit that we're salespeople. And it kind of blows my mind, because I'm going, I mean, we were just talking, Steve, I just lost my mom, and I watched her and helped care for her when she was in assisted living in the town where I live. And what I'm going to tell you is that community saved us. I mean, it cared for her so deeply, so wonderfully, in a way that there's no way I could have provided that. And frankly, cared for us too. And so why are we so timid about saying, yeah, I know you want to wait forever, but let's have a frank conversation. Let's do some straight talk here, and let me push you on this, because we have communities, we have products that change people's lives for the better. And so I think we have this sort of ambivalence with sales. I think if senior living at some point would go, yeah, we're in sales because we got something to talk about, I think what you would see happen from there is a certain level of accountability, investment in training, which I have to pull and beg for now, so that we can convert at a higher rate and really, get those skills up where they should be, and at a level where other industries are enjoying all the time.
So one of the things I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and there's been sort of this school of thought in senior living. We've got a couple of experts who've really pushed this idea that our job is to sort of nurture people on this journey of discovering that they need senior living, right? And it sounds beautiful and it sounds wonderful, but it always has felt kind of not right for me. And I'm probably going to get some hate mail on this. I'm going to start with this, but it seems to me it's a little bit like I go to this doctor and I've said, I've got some chest pain, and I don't know what this chest pain is. And I answer the doctor, said, well, let me hook you up to the EKG, and we're going to do some other blood tests, and we're going to do some stuff. And the doctor comes back and says, well, we've done some tests and stuff, and here's kind of what we think it is, and here are some possible treatments. What would you like to do? And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know. You tell me you're the expert. Do I have this wrong? I think we need to be experts.
If you have it wrong, we're wrong together. When I've seen communities turn around, it's because they finally figure this out, right? Because that's what I do. We go into communities, SageAge goes into communities, and we turn the momentum around. And when we do, it's always because we get our minds around. Steve, I would say it's maybe even a bleaker picture than that. It's not just let me present you all the options. It is, well, let me take your blood pressure. Oh, it's really high. I'm going to write that down. What?
Yes.
Yeah. What are we doing? I mean, I would fire a doctor like that. You might sue them if you ended up in a crisis because of that. It's almost negligent, because the people we have sitting in front of us, and you and I were just talking about our parents. Like, I've been through this on a personal level too. The people we have sitting across the table or beside us at our desks when we are presenting our community and exploring their options with them, our prospective residents are in one of the most vulnerable, confusing times of life that are just rampant with change, and like the earth is sort of shaking beneath them. Who am I? What do I do? What does this next time of my life look like? Who can I still be in this next phase? And like, to say to them, I hear all that, or alternatively, to just tell them all about your community and leave it there, is really to let them just sit there in their anxiety and leave just as anxious, if not more, than when they walked in your door. And that really is, I think, negligent. Our responsibility to folks is, yes, empathy. Yes, all the way empathy. But empathy isn't just, I don't care what you do. Empathy is caring about someone. It is investment in someone, right? And I think what we like to do in senior living is to go to extremes with our sales process. So it's either transactional or it's completely this, I don't know, do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this for years. It's just both. It will always be a transaction. It's important. It's one of the most expensive things they'll ever pay for in their lives. It's one of the biggest decisions they'll ever make in their lives. And at the same time, it is deeply emotional. It is wrapped up in our sense of self. It is wrapped up in our sense of our own mortality and all the human fears of change that we have going into these meetings with these, and you said it, professionals that you expect to be professionals like you do when you sit down with your financial advisor or your doctor. So I
Yeah.
don't know why we tend to go from one extreme to the other. I think it has to do with this root cause of not really embracing our brand, our specific brand of being salespeople in senior living with an impactful mission where we can sit in front of people and actually give them a compass for the next phase of their life that might lower their anxiety, make their family relationships better, increase their outlook in terms of health and longevity, do all those things because you were willing to have a real conversation with someone about what it looks like and what it means.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem that I worry about a lot is that maybe we don't really believe in the product as much as we should. That and yet the truth of the matter is when you look at the surveys that are done, the satisfaction levels that people have, they're actually very, very high. I mean, my mom spent the last, I experienced something like you did. My mom spent the last 8 months of her life in a senior living community, and we couldn't have survived without it. And they did such a great job.
Yes.
Was it perfect? I don't know. It actually was pretty close to perfect. I mean, there were issues, but we dealt with it, and they were direct, and we had talked it out, and it was amazing. And it would have destroyed our lives if it hadn't been there, right? And we
Oh,
should be
oh,
talking about that.
we should be talking about it. I think there's a few things that get in the way there. First of all, talking about you getting hate mail, I'm about to get some hate mail. If you don't believe in your product and you're a salesperson, quit and do something else. I mean, you can sell something else without believing in it. Go sell gadgets, go sell
That's
electronics.
right.
If you don't believe in your community, in senior living and the power it has to impact lives, go do something else because you cannot be an effective salesperson in senior living without believing in it. And that gets to the next thing. And I know you and I've talked about this some, which is authority. That's what we were referencing. I
Yeah,
think.
so I want to dig into I'm going to actually back up a little bit
Okay.
because I think this will
Yeah,
help lead into it. So
yeah,
most sales training
yeah.
is okay, here's our series of scripts that you use. So you walk in and you say this stuff and you ask these things, and then you say this stuff and you ask these things, and voila, they buy. The problem is it's just like this broadcast, right? I put together some notes that I sent to you, and we looked at it, and already as soon as we jumped into it, we're completely off script,
Right,
right?
right,
That's the problem.
right.
So now, given that, what do we replace scripts with so that we have both authenticity and authority?
I'm chuckling because the production of scripts comes a little bit from our mindset at upper levels. And I would really encourage leaders in communities and organizations to allow the sales training and the process of learning to be good in sales to be less quantifiable on the teaching end, less detailed, less specific in terms of it's not about do I say this word and that. It's just never going to be that. Um, I think the scripts do get in the way. I think the extremes of the ideas get in the way. Is it all empathy, or is it that I actually need to know how to talk with people about their finances? It is both. I think hiring and the way we hire gets in the way. I think we really need to get to a point in senior living where we hire for a match of personality and skills and native talents to a person than we do over and beyond have they done this specific job on their resume. Because guess what? You can do a specific job on your resume and do it poorly.
That's right.
And we do a lot of hiring like that. And I think it goes back, Steve, to fear of being salespeople. So if we let go of that fear and we embrace it and we say, what really does make a good salesperson in senior living? You can start to say, you know what makes a good salesperson? Intelligence, because I have to talk with people about their finances. I have to be emotionally intelligent. I have to be emotionally mature enough to sit and be present with the person in front of me. And I have to be confident enough to not need a script, to not say to the person coaching me, tell me what to say and when to say it. Here's how we should be teaching sales. And I'm even going to change that word. We shouldn't be teaching sales. We should be practicing sales. We do not say to our high school students when they start playing baseball, let me tell you about the history of baseball. Let's talk about the ball. Let's talk about the bat. What do? We get out there and we hold the bat and we throw the ball and we say, and we correct a little bit, like, okay, you need to, get your feet on the ground and get your feet apart a little bit and lower the bat a little bit and all those things. Well, what we're helping kids and adults do when they do that is to feel in their bodies the muscle memory of what it feels like to whack the heck out of a baseball. And that's what sales is. I promise you, we're teaching sales instead of practicing sales. And if we would go to the place of practicing sales, which in order to do, we have to stop being afraid of it, because that's accountability. No, we are going to practice. We are going to do this together because that's your job. And if we got in the thick of it with each other like that, we would get the feeling. And I mean, this sounds strange, maybe it just people who haven't done it. In your body, what is the feeling of being able to have the confidence to sit in front of an older adult and take on straight talk with them and give them good sound advice that they will hear and follow?
I love this so much. I've got so many places I want to go with this, but I'm going to start with a little story because I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who is an amazing senior living salesperson. And when I talk to him about his processes, one of the things he does is he starts with, hey, do you know the thing that's most likely to kill you as an older person? And they'll go, oh, a heart attack or a stroke or something. He said, nope, that's not it. It's loneliness. And he says, and if you don't move into this community, you're going to die at home alone. And yet you can have amazing life by moving in.
Yes.
And
yes.
when other people hear that, they're shocked that you're so direct. But man, that's what people need.
They need it, Steve, and they deserve it because you're not talking to a child. And that also is, that's a huge pet peeve for both of us, I know, is the condescension. We assume that our prospective residents can't take it, that they can't hear it, that they can't handle a really serious conversation. The truth is they're living it. And they have lived it with their own parents and all of those things. What I like to say to people is, tell me, people say, Deborah, I'm not ready. We're really thinking no, because, well, we've told our children we want to die at home. And what I say to them is, tell me what that looks like. I mean, really what it looks like.
What a great question. I
and
love
you know what they say every time? You know what they say. Guess at it.
I don't know. They
You
don't know.
No, they do know.
They
say, yes. They say, I want to be in bed and my family's going to be around me and I'm going to go to sleep. And I have to be the one to say, I'm very sorry to tell you, it is hardly ever
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
It's
Hardly.
hardly ever like that. And in fact, staying home makes it less likely that it's going to be like that because you won't have advocates along the way to help you, get to that point in the way with your dignity as much as you can and with
This
support of the family.
this is so good. So I want to talk. I want to come back to this ageism thing just a little bit.
Mm, mm.
I did a keynote. I'm not even gonna tell you what state it is. 'Cause I don't want to brand anybody, but I did a keynote, and I had an admin who doesn't work for me anymore at the time, who lived in the area, and so she came to the keynote. And when we were done, she sort of said, "What do you want to do?" I had several hours before my flight, and I said, "I don't know. Let's go tour a senior living community." And so we just picked a random one. We pulled into the parking lot. She said, "Well, how do you want to do this?" I said, "Well, why don't you just go in and pretend that I'm, the resident." We walked in, we spent 45 minutes in this community. The salesperson never once, I never said a word. She never asked me a question. She ignored me. I was like a lump on the log there. I felt so bad for her because it was such a lost opportunity.
Yes. Yes,
Um,
it's painful.
it,
Painful.
it was, it was, it was just awful. So, and then I want to come back to the sports analogy. I mean, I was watching football last night, and I was thinking a little bit about this, right? So all these football players, they practice all these plays, and then of course, as soon as the ball is hiked and tossed to a receiver,
Yeah.
it becomes muscle memory, right? Because it's never going to be exactly like they practiced, but they've practiced enough that no matter what happens, they're just going to know what to do. How does that work in sales?
Steve, literally everyone hates role play. Everyone hates it. Everyone hates it. It is also absolutely necessary. If you're going to know how to get out of the house or the building when it's on fire, at the point when it's on fire, without having to sit there and map it out in your head, you got to practice. It's a drill, right? The thing I come up against all the time that I think is such an opportunity for some organizations to just really pull ahead, really put the pedal to the metal, right? Is fear of holding our teams accountable. And what I mean by that is everybody hates role play. So guess what everybody's going to do when they have to role play? The managers aren't going to lead it. The staff is going to grumble at first. And so the minute that happens, everybody backs up because they're afraid of it. The truth is, and I've seen some extraordinary organizations really take this on. The truth is, if you say, you know what, you guys, this is awful. It feels awful. We got to do it. We're in it together. Nobody's scrutinizing you. This is a safe place. We don't have operations people in here right now. It's all salespeople. So let's just do it. Take a stab at it, even if it's terrible. And you start there, and then you insist that it becomes part integrated into your sales program from top to bottom, and have leaders do it too, because too often I see, well, we're going to make our salespeople do this, but the leaders sit back. The sales leaders even sit back because they don't want to do it. So if we would all say, this stinks, we got to do it because it's the only way to get better, because you can't learn baseball without being on the baseball field. What happens is everybody gets more relaxed. And after a bit, it's not a thing. It's just not a thing. It's just part of what you're expected to do. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of like, oh, wait, I blew it. Let me back up. And guess what? Every time you blow it and back up, guess what happens? That muscle memory. You're throwing the pass. You're throwing the pass. You're throwing the pass. No quarterback says, okay, wait a minute. Let me think.
That's
How
right.
do I, you can't do it. It has to come from the inside. It does. And the other thing I want to say about this in terms of practice, I want to emphasize what I just said. It has to come from the inside. When you practice something, you are not laying over concepts onto who you are. What you're doing is you're finding that person literally inside yourself and lifting it up. So I'm Deborah. I'm a lot of things. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm actually a preacher
Yeah.
on Sundays, a lot of things. I'm not going to be any of those other things when I'm sitting across from a prospective resident. I'm going to be Deborah, the salesperson, but I'm going
Yeah.
to be Deborah, the salesperson. It comes from inside me, not outside me. And it's about that practice is about finding where that place is and feeling it and then repeating, if that makes sense. Can
Oh,
I
I
say
love
one more
it.
thing about the
Yeah.
ageism thing?
Yeah. What's that?
The- Can I
Yeah.
say one more thing about the
Yes, you
age?
can. Of course. Anything you want.
Okay. Okay. So the other thing that I think happens that leads us to the place where we can't be human, straight talk in front of older adults, just me and you having this important conversation, is that back to hiring, we have the wrong idea about what a salesperson should be. A lot of times, Melinda Schmitz, our CEO, will laugh at this because she's heard me say it a million times. We hire salespeople because they're cheerful. That is the wrong reason to hire a salesperson. Absolutely the wrong reason. Because probably what's going to happen is in front of that older adult, they're going to go, "How are you doing today?" And I'm not making fun of anyone. I'm really not. That's wonderful if that's your personality. It doesn't belong in a serious conversation with an older adult. What belongs in this conversation is, tell me what's happening. Let's talk about this. Tell me what your budget is. What's happening with your kids? What's your vision? What does it mean for you to die at home? Let's talk about this. And let's have a lot of laughs in between and probably some tears. And we're not going to be afraid of any of it because we're mature adults who can handle this. And we respect the people in front of us as mature adults who can handle it.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah, because
soapbox.
this is such an important conversation because I completely agree with you. I think, by the time somebody walks into a senior living community, an older person, I mean, they know that they've lived most of their life. They know they're on a downhill slide,
Totally.
particularly if you're talking assisted living or even independent living with care, what they're going, they know, and it's okay to talk about it.
Amen.
And if they don't know, sometimes, I mean, and I do know this is the case, if they don't know, their family knows. And
Yes.
the family's there because they've got this huge, huge need. And so we shouldn't be shying away from these conversations. They're so important. And I want to circle back. We're doing a lot of circling back today, but I want to
Sure.
circle back a little bit to this training thing a lot. So I was in the hospital last week with my stepfather. It wasn't me, it was my stepfather. And he had a urinary tract infection. And so, they're messy and
Yep.
catheterization and all this stuff. And again, I'm sorry if we're getting a little gross here, but I was so impressed with the male nurse that came in and I'm thinking I could never do that.
Mm.
But the
Mm.
reason he could do it was before he ever got on the floor with a patient, these nurses were catheterizing each other and they were practicing and practicing and practicing. And so when they started working with patients, it was just they'd learned it. So it's exactly what you're talking about. And we need to have that kind of discipline. So you guys actually have a program that does this, right? I want to get to that. I don't want to miss that.
It's grow. It's grow. We call
Tell
it
me about it.
we call it grow. And we call it grow because of what we just talked about. This is not about learning a set of facts. It's about changing. It's about changing from the inside and lifting up the part of you who can sit down and help change someone else's life for the better in their older adult years. That's what it's about. We have stages in grow. They're flexible. They're really flexible because what we know is people don't come in and go, I'm going to start from here. And the next thing I'm going to learn this other thing. And the next thing I'm going to learn this other thing. That's not how it works. They're messy. Just like you said, your hospital experience. This is real life. It's messy. I may go, into this phase of interest in a community and making a change for a while. And then something may happen and I may find myself reverting back to being a little afraid, being a little skeptical. Maybe something changed in my life that pushed the interest along. There's all kinds of things that happen. And I've really gotten to the point, Steve, that even though Grow has some stages to help people sort of understand the map, right, of what we do with prospective residents, we just practice within those stages the umbrella skills. In fact, I want to say it the opposite way. The umbrella skills that the stages live within. So the umbrella skills and sort of native talents, muscle memory that we're building are things like authority, which is not, we're scared to death of that word. Doesn't mean that I ram this down your throat. It means that I am in charge of this in a way that makes the person and the family across from me feel at ease. You talked about nurses. My husband is a nurse. My husband's a big old strong guy. When he walks in, and I've seen it over and over again, and I feel this way about him, when he walks into a room with someone who is frail or vulnerable, the first thing you can see it on their face, they think is, he would catch me if I fell.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
would catch me. That's who we need to be in front of our folks. That's what Grow does. That's the authority piece. There's also the confidence piece, right? Which is sort of connected to that, but it's also confidence in our prospective residents that they can handle this talk. And there's empathy, of course. And there's intelligence. There's knowing your product inside and out. I'll never forget one of my closest friends in the industry now, and a community. She works at a community I've worked with for a long time, a beloved community. I remember in the early days saying, we got to talk about finances in depth. And she said, Deborah, no, they have financial advisors. I don't feel like I can talk to them about that. Why would I want to get into them about that? You better roll up your sleeves, and you better get a tool that helps you learn to talk about it. And you better dig in, because guess what's on their mind?
That's right.
You're not getting to any of the other stuff, honestly, until you're able to talk about their finances and do it in a way that does not condescend to them, but meets them where they are. So that really, Steve, that's what Grow is. It's, let's take these umbrella concepts, these native talents, this training. Sounds so weird to be trained in authenticity, but it really is, how do I become that great quarterback where I don't have to think about how to throw this ball, but it is in my body. It lives in my muscle memory. And when that person's in front of me, I just know how to do it.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. I love that so much. I'm going to circle back to one more question I have that we talked about as we were prepping for this. And I think this is really, really important. We see there's sort of this notion, particularly about digital leads, that they're not very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I worry that because people sort of think of them as not very good, they don't take them seriously.
Yeah.
And in truth, there are going to be more digital leads that aren't very good. And so how do we do that?
I think part of it is recognizing where we are, right? So when you say something's not good, it is in comparison to something else.
Okay.
Part of the reason we're stuck on this is because we remember the good old days when it was all direct mail, or we could put an ad in the newspaper, right? If you're really looking back, and people would just show up, or, those kinds of things. Well, guess what? That's great. They're not working as well anymore. We're in a new generation. Ask me, please, if I am caught up on my mail. No, I am not. I'm not caught up on opening my mail. Nobody at my age who I know at 54, 55, to 60 is caught up on reading their mail. We are moving toward a different sensibility, a different way of understanding, of getting our information, of understanding what we're interested in. It's just changing. So my answer to this is, we got to let go of that. We are where we are. Some of what drives leads now is direct mail. Some of it is outreach, and a lot of it is digital leads, for better or for worse. Now, is it going to have the quality, a digital lead, of the old days when you could go down to the doctor's office, and hope you're still doing some of this, by the way, and say, I am sending Martha to you, and she knows what to expect, and there is buy-in, right? Nowadays, I can literally on my computer at 1 o'clock in the morning chat somebody about maybe being interested on a whim for my mom who may not even be to that point yet, right?
Yep.
So it's not the same. It's a new world. We need to accept that we live in this new world, and we have to get back to that conversion space and mindset, to our accountability. We have to hold our agencies accountable. We have to start doing conversion rates. I know salespeople hate to put every single lead in. I know they do. But it was a short conversation, Deborah. I don't want to put it in. It just takes too much time. Okay, then what you're doing is you're giving your agency a pass. Because if you put every lead in and then you have to close them, what does that say? It gives you a ratio of conversion from inquiry to lead, right? And not only does it hold them accountable, but it helps them work with you. So at SageAge, we're not afraid of bad numbers. All they mean to us is we got to do something different, don't we? We want to know if the numbers are bad. So it's about data now with the leads. The other piece is back to authority and confidence. You got to qualify the lead. You just have to. And you can't do it with the script. You don't have to do it with the script. Do it in a mission-minded way. When you sit down with that older adult or you're on the phone with them, say, here's the thing. We want to make sure to respect your time. And don't forget, some of it is with adult children too, right? Who may be working and have very, very busy lives. So we're going to be respectful of your time. And we're going to make sure before we get started doing all the talking we need to talk, I can tell you all about the community, but I want to make sure this is right for you. So let's talk about your budget right off the bat. And let's talk about what is your timeline? What are you thinking? And then you get a sense of where they are. And from there, all salespeople should be developing a plan, not a plan that takes you 30 minutes to map out, but a plan for priority. If that person said to you, well, Deborah, this is really 5 years off, then I'm going to have a good, solid first appointment with you. If you're still 5 years off, I'm going to call you in 6 months or a year. I'm not calling you next week, right? I have people who will not let go of leads they have been working for 10 years, who are still saying the same thing to them over and over again. You guys, it's funny. You got to have the confidence to break up sometimes. I've seen so many sales saved because the salesperson finally said, I'm not serving you anymore. If our talking is just helping you hang on to this that you're not really going to do, go make a different plan. And then suddenly it's like, oh, I better do something, right? Now,
That's right.
having said all that, I have to say the thing, which is you also can't make assumptions. You can't, every lead has some potential, right? I like to do 3 strikes, you're out. That's what I like to do. And I don't mean 3 strikes, I called you 3 times in the same afternoon. Or, I've tried the same thing over and over again. I mean, I called you today. You didn't answer. I called you 2 days from now at a different time. You didn't answer. Then I waited maybe 2 weeks or a month to make sure you weren't on vacation. I called you back. And this time I say, you know what? It seems like you've moved on from your interest in our community. So I'm going to go ahead and take you off our list. If that was the wrong thing to do, it's the easiest thing. Call me back. We'll put you right back on. No problem. We'll resume our conversation from here. I've gotten so many callbacks, Steve, from saying that, where people said, no, I really was just busy. Great. Now we can have a conversation.
That's right. And you moved the conversation forward, right?
You've moved it forward. We need to realize that there are sometimes we just have nothing to lose. We don't have anything in our hands anyway. So being afraid of putting it on the line and saying, here's what this process looks like, we need to both be invested. It's not helping you at all.
That's right. And it saves you all this time. You're not wasting chasing something that's never going to turn into something. Or, as the other way described, it moves things forward. So either way is a win.
Yep. And then I'm going to go to my next lead that might be something and
That's
spend
right.
more time with them, a lot of time. I'm going to remember what it's like to just sit and visit. That's how much time I'm going to spend with them. Pressure off. Let's sit and talk.
Yep.
Or I'm going to take that time and I am going to go to the doctor's office or the independent living down the street or wherever it is to build those relationships that will also contribute to my leads.
Yep.
Freeing up that time is everything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Deborah, we are way past time. This has been a great conversation. No, it's fine. This has been great. And I appreciate it. You've seen the link. The links are in chat. If you are struggling with your sales, I just reach out to Deborah, talk to her about the Grow program. I was actually thinking you guys ought to be doing some role-playing breakout sessions at some of these conferences to get people to get a feel for what that would look like.
It's a great idea. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think that could be really fun. I'd even love to work with you on that as we go down the road. So anyway, Deborah, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. I just hope you have amazing success. I hope this was helpful to you. And with that, I will see you all on Friday for Foresight TV.
Thank you.